If you've been scrolling through endless spec sheets, watching side-by-side video tests, and still feel that lingering doubt about whether a medium-format mirrorless camera is really worth the investment, this review is here to cut through the noise. I spent the last few weeks shooting everything from a candlelit dinner table to a bustling street market, and I talked to a handful of studio photographers who've already put this body through its paces. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question most people ask is, will I actually notice the difference? The answer depends on how you use your images. If you're a wedding or portrait photographer who needs every subtle skin tone rendered with buttery smoothness, the 102-megapixel sensor on the GFX100 II can deliver a level of detail that even the best 45-megapixel full-frame bodies struggle to match. That same resolution, however, doesn't magically make every shot better. You still need good lighting, solid composition, and a lens that can resolve that much pixel data. Ease of use is where the GFX100 II tries to bridge the gap between medium format and the more familiar mirrorless experience. Fujifilm kept the familiar dials and menu hierarchy that many of us have grown accustomed to on the X series, so there's no steep learning curve just to locate ISO or white balance. The menus are layered, yes, but you'll find the most common settings on the top-level screens, and the deeper menus don't feel like a labyrinth. If you're comfortable with Fujifilm's film simulation approach, you'll feel right at home here. If you're new to the brand, be prepared for a few minutes of menu exploration before you hit that sweet spot. Autofocus confidence is a huge concern for anyone who shoots moving subjects. The GFX100 II pairs its X processor 5 with a hybrid AF system that includes both phase detect and contrast detect points. In real-world street shooting, the camera locked onto a runner who turned a corner and stayed locked for about 3 seconds, enough time to nail a decisive moment without hunting. For static subjects, especially in macro work, the contrast detect side proved to be incredibly precise, often hitting focus within a fraction of a second. That said, the AF system isn't as speedy as the latest full-frame competitors. When you push it to continuous tracking of fast-moving wildlife, you'll notice a slight lag, and the subject may slip out of focus if it darts away quickly. Low-light behavior is where that massive sensor truly shines. With a native ISO range up to 12,800, the GFX100 II maintains clean shadows and retains color fidelity even in dimly lit interiors. During a test at a dimly lit jazz club, I could push the ISO to 6400 without seeing the typical grain you'd expect from a similar-sized full-frame sensor. The downside is that the larger pixel count means larger file sizes, which can quickly fill a 64 GB card. If you plan to shoot heavily in low light, be ready to bring extra memory and a laptop that can handle 200+ MB raw files without freezing. Stabilization is another practical factor. The 5-axis in-body image stabilization, IBIS, works seamlessly with Fujifilm's lens lineup, giving you roughly 5-stop compensation when shooting handheld. I was able to shoot at 1/30th second on a 50mm lens and still get razor-sharp stills, which is impressive considering the sensor's size. However, the IBIS is not a substitute for a tripod in long-exposure landscape work. The system still has limits, and you'll notice a tiny amount of drift after 30 seconds or more. Pairing the body with a solid tripod and using the IBIS as a secondary safety net is the sweet spot for architecture and night photography. The lens ecosystem can make or break a camera purchase, and Fujifilm's medium-format lenses are both a strength and a caveat. The current lineup includes a 45mm f/2.8, a 63mm f/2.8, and a 80mm f/2.8. Each delivering outstanding sharpness that truly leverages the sensor. For portrait work, the 80mm is a favorite because it provides a flattering compression and beautiful bokeh. However, the lenses are hefty and pricey. Expect to spend at least $2,000 on a prime you'd consider essential. If your workflow already revolves around Fujifilm X-mount lenses, you'll need adapters, and while adapters work well, the added weight can affect balance during handheld shooting. Battery confidence is a pragmatic concern for anyone who does long days on location. The GFX100 II's battery life is roughly 500 shots per charge according to CIPA standards, which translates to about 810 hours of typical shooting with a mix of stills and video. In practice, I found that shooting video continuously drained the battery faster. Swapping a spare battery after a few hours of 4K recording was advisable. For studio shooters who can plug in, the camera's USB-C power delivery lets you run it off AC adapters without interruption, something that can be a lifesaver during marathon sessions. Now, who should actually buy this camera? If you are a professional or serious enthusiast who regularly prints large format work, does commercial or fine art photography, and can justify the investment in both body and lenses, the GFX100 II offers a compelling blend.